Hello and welcome to the Challenge All-Stars Season 3 Power Rankings, as we are going to take a deep dive into where these players are power-wise within the game at the end of Episode 4, heading into Episode 5. Before we can get into the actual rankings, I want to go through the math and the thought process of how I put everybody's placement this past week's episode, because this past week's episode was a little difficult to really nail down specific placements, right? Because everybody was doing different heats, and then people either drop first or second, and it's difficult with all different heats trying to figure out the time and definitive placements on who finished where. So luckily we know exactly who finished in 9th, which was last place, 8th and 7th for both the men and the women. We know that Darrell and Beth DQ'd, so they get 9th place. Once on the ground, TJ said that Wes and Kellyanne were lucky that Darrell and Beth DQ'd, or they were the ones going into the elimination. So Kellyanne and Wes got 8th place, and that means that the only other players that dropped last in their rounds were Yes and Kendall, so they get 7th place. Now for everybody that dropped second in their round, I took the average of what placements that they could have gotten, which was 4th, 5th, and 6th, and I took the average of those placements, which was 5th place, and I just handed 5 across the board to Derek, Sylvia, Jordan, Ronnie, Nehemiah, and Naya. Now for the players in the authority, we definitively know who got first place, which was Kayla and Brad, but for everybody else, they could have either gotten 2nd place or 3rd place. Without definitively knowing which placements that they got, I took the average of those two placements, which was 2.5, and I handed those across the board to MJ, John A, Brad, and Veronica. That was just to give you an idea and clarify how I went about figuring out the placements for all the players from this specific daily challenge, which was high stakes. Now let's get into the rankings. Starting at the bottom of the power rankings, heading out of episode 4, I have Beth and Nehemiah. Beth is coming in late. She got last place in the daily challenge. Nobody's really excited to see her enter the game. I think Kendall was the most excited, and Kendall left this episode. So Beth is right now at the bottom of the rankings. The treehouse wants her out. Also, she's stirring up drama with John A in the next episode, and we saw what happened when somebody crossed John A, and that was Kendall, and she left this past week's episode. So now Beth is crossing John A and MJ. So Beth is clearly on the bottom rankings. Nehemiah I have at the bottom at number 8 because right now he's the only man that hasn't won anything in this game. He hasn't won into the authority. He hasn't won into a power position, and he seems to be more reactionary than proactive. We've heard him talk about, like, I don't want to talk too close to Wes because then people will think that we're scheming with each other. Now Beth is entering the game, and he's worried about that putting a target on his back. So it just seems like I can't really tell what Nehemiah's game is at this point. He hasn't really put anything into action. Now coming in at number 7, I have Naya and Mark. Mark finally won into the authority, but we kind of saw from the edit that he was either going for Jordan or Wes, and then Wes kind of got in his ear at the party scene. I don't think it was any surprise that he would want to take a shot at Jordan more so than Wes, but it just showed that even in a position of power, Mark is still a little bit more malleable. We also don't know who he's really working with in the game or any really strong ties. I loved hearing that he really wants to win this season, and winning is the only option for him on this season. But I want to see more. I want to see more strategy, more politics happening with Mark, but he did a great job in this episode and was able to get into the authority. Now Naya got a ton of screen time this episode, and I was super happy about that because we get to hear some murmurs and some rumors and some thought process to what Naya is seeing in the game. She mentioned at the bar scene about the Treehouse Alliance, noticing that they are a strong alliance, and why aren't we making a strong alliance to combat the Treehouse Alliance? So this is making me hopeful that Naya is going to start taking the reins in this game and making alliance to combat the treehouse. I feel as though she's not really getting her footing in these challenges, and I would love to see her get into the authority, make some power moves, get into an alliance, probably with KellyAnne, Jordan, maybe even grabbing Wes. I mean, everybody was talking smack about Jordan and Wes in that authority. We're going to have to wait and see. But until we see something definitive from Naya and starting this alliance to chop down the treehouse or go on a witch hunt for this witch house, then I'm still going to have her at the lower bottom of these ranks at number 7. But I'm very hopeful that we're going to see something very soon. I think this episode was foreshadowing something to happen either in episode 5 or episode 6. But let's move on to number 6, and that is going to be MJ and Ronnie. MJ won into a second position of power in the game from this past episode. He did a good job just standing in place, but when it comes to a mini final or running in mud, I don't think I have the highest hopes for MJ and his game. Also, there's a big target on his back. He's taking a lot of things personally. He is becoming very petty. He is being emotional. He's not really thinking logically, I think, in this game. I mean, he even said, I don't care what Brad is going to bring up in the authority. I'm just going to try to shoot down everything he says. I don't care if it's good for my game. That's not how you win the game. So I have MJ at the 6th spot because I don't know what his knee is looking like. I have questions about his physicality and also questions about his gameplay. And I have Ronnie at number 6 above Naya. They both have the same kind of finishes with a 6.9 average finish in the challenges. I have Ronnie slightly over Naya because of the Treehouse Alliance. Because Ronnie has her room and numbers on her side that way, I have her slightly over Naya. Just like Naya, I want to see more of Ronnie. I want to see her take charge. I want to see her get into a position of power to see what she would do. But with how many people the Treehouse lost recently, I think that she's even more integrated into the Treehouse Alliance. We just haven't seen it just yet. Now let's get into number 5. And I don't know how this is happening, but these two are just sitting next to each other in my power rankings and just moving in tandem with each other. And that is Wes and KellyAnne. Wes is not doing well in his placements in these daily challenges. I think he has the worst average finish for the men who are still left in this game, but you can still see that he has a lot of friends in the game. He still has a lot of enemies in this game, but he still has a lot of friends. He's very strategic. We saw him kind of like push Mark into saying Jordan, even though I think Mark was already leaning that way. So I think that Wes still has a good bit of power despite not having won into the authority since episode 1. KellyAnne may not be shown to have a ton of friends in the game by the edit because she's been hanging around with Kendall so long. And yes, she has a big target on her back from Sylvia, Kayla, and Veronica. I mean, Veronica said her name in this episode. Sylvia already threw a sabotage on her, and I think Kayla was even thinking about throwing a sabotage on KellyAnne as well. And now with Kendall gone, it seems like the two targets in the house right now is Beth and KellyAnne. The only thing is that KellyAnne is a strong competitor. She has a fantastic daily average finish on the season, and going into elimination, I would put my money on KellyAnne above a lot of the other women that are still in this game. And if Naya is going to make this rival alliance, KellyAnne would be her number 1. Like, KellyAnne would be ride or die with Naya, and I think those two together would be super strong. Coming in at number 4, I have Derek and Veronica. I have Veronica over KellyAnne because she won her second placement into the authority, while KellyAnne only has 1 win into the authority. Veronica has a good amount of power, a good amount of friends behind her. Again, Kayla, Sylvia, Ronnie, Derek. Yes, she doesn't have the best average finish on the season, but she is winning into power and trying to set herself up for the future. Derek, on the other hand, has won once into power, and I have him up this high because of that win and because of the Treehouse Alliance. Because he has so many friends and he seems well integrated into the Treehouse Alliance, that's why I have him up this high at number 4. Now let's move into the number 3 spot, and I have Yes and Sylvia. Yes and Sylvia are playing a fantastic game. They are both very strong competitors. I'm very surprised that we haven't heard Yes's name really come up in the authority meetings. We did hear it come up in episode 3, but quickly that was shot down. And with 2 wins in the authority on the season so far, I have Yes comfortably sitting at number 3. And the same with Sylvia. Sylvia's been doing a great job in the game with her numbers. She didn't do a whole lot this episode. She was kind of freaking out in the episode, but her name has never been said. She is well placed in her alliance. She has a ton of friends, And Sylvia is just a really solid competitor on the season. Yes, she has been shown to be a little bit indecisive, but she seems to have found her placing in the game. She found her placement in the alliance, and I feel like she's really comfortable in the game. I think it's a far distance from what we saw in episode 1 to episode 4 this past week, even though she freaked out about the heights, but it seemed like a lot of people were freaking out about the heights. I just think that Sylvia is a very solid competitor and definitely deserves to be in the top 3 of the power rankings. Coming in at number 2, I have, surprisingly, Jordan and Jonna. Now, people might be shocked to see Jordan down here after an impressive elimination win against a beast of a competitor in Darrell. However, being thrown into elimination, luckily he won, but thrown into elimination, Jordan was on the brink, right? He was like a foot away from losing and being sent home. I think Jordan was already viewed as a giant threat, and then the clinic that he was able to put on against Darrell, I think it made people intimidated by him, but also I think it just added a bigger target on his back because he could take out Darrell. So I think that Jordan, impressive win. The way he won kept him in the top 2, but his name being said, he was on the brink of almost losing that elimination. And I think, again, when your name is said once, it can be said again. But with Jordan, he has an incredible elimination record. Win percentage is off the charts, and it's going to be tough to take him out in this game. But I have him at number 2 because he was in danger, and he is still viewed as a threat. We also look at number 2, Jonna. Jonna, how is she this powerful? She is so persuasive. She is playing a very strong game. She has some of the strongest social ties I think I've ever seen in the challenge. Does nobody see her as a giant threat? Does nobody want to take a shot at Jonna? Like, how is she, like, just chilling out here? I mean, they haven't been able to take a shot recently because she's won 3 times in the Authority. And it's just incredible the way she has bounced back from her 7th place finish in episode 1 to win into 3 straight Authorities. Jonna is an incredible competitor. I think she is playing a little bit emotionally this season. Like, her and MJ are really taking a lot of things and, like, sabotages personally. Like, if you take a shot at MJ, you're taking a shot at me. If you sabotage him, you're enemy number 1, and we want to take you out by any and all means. I don't care if it's good for my game or bad for my game. So I'm not a huge fan of that gameplay, but it just doesn't seem like Jonna can make a misstep. It's rather interesting to see her game this season, and it just seems like she just keeps going up levels and levels and levels every single season she does. Now, coming in at number 1, I'm going to have Brad and Kayla, the winners from this past week, the winners from the prior week, and they were also in the Authority in episode 2. Brad and Kayla have won 3 times out of 4 Authorities on the season. Now, I will say that Brad hasn't had the most power in the Authorities he's won into, as he has done a couple of burn votes. There was just too many people in the Authority to push their way to get what they wanted, despite it not being Brad's decision. But this past week's episode, he actually did a good job pushing the vote away from Wes and into Jordan. I think he had a lot more say with Mark in the Authority and Veronica. So Brad just winning 3 times in the Authority, the only man to win 3 times in the Authority. I have no option but to put him at number 1. And he's playing a very strong game, a very loyal game, and he's playing the game that he wants to do, and he doesn't care if it bites him in the butt, but he's going to stand up for his friends, his alliance members, and it's rather incredible the performance that he's putting on week in and week out. And the same with Kayla. Kayla has the Treehouse Alliance. She is winning into the Authority on a regular basis, and she is unapologetically playing the game she wants to play and trying to take out the players that she deems are huge threats. When coming onto the season, I thought Kayla would do a good job because she is athletic. She is a very young competitor coming onto a show that is that has been known to be about OGs and challengers. in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I had a feeling that Kayla was going to do a good job. I just didn't think she was going to do this good of a job to keep winning into power the way she has. So with Kayla winning 3 times in the authority and having this Treehouse Alliance, like Brad, I have no other option but to put her at number 1 in these power rankings heading into episode 5. But that is it for the power rankings for this week's Challenge All-Stars 3. What do you think about my power rankings? Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think about my placements for everybody? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Let me know anything and everything you think about my rankings down in the comment section below. And if you disagree, let me know your power rankings of all the players, because I would love to know what you are thinking about the dynamics within the house, within the game. I love to read all the comments and reply to them, so please leave me any and all comments down below. And while you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button. I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity, and I want to thank you for watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really soon with more Challenge All-Stars content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.
Big.